to educate people and empower people who are foreign students, foreign graduates, or alumni, whether you're still here, you're inside the US, or you've left, or, and giving you options and giving you information in terms of staying in the US and not relying on a job offer, not relying on essentially an H-1B visa, which are hard to obtain, which we're going to show you some statistics, and just empowering you to understand how, if it's relevant for you, because it might not be for everyone, but for many people it might be something that's worth considering, to take control out of your own future and decide that you would like to work as a self-employed individual, as somebody who has a company and getting clients or customers, working in the US in something that you have studied, in something that's your dream, that's your passion. If, and it can be also a fallback, if, for example, you don't get a job offer, or if you do get a job offer, the employer may not want to sponsor you for an H-1B visa, for example, or even if the H-1B visa, if you have a sponsorship for the H-1B and they may pay the lawyers, etc., because we used to do H-1Bs, it's a lottery and you may not get it. So this gives you an additional option to be able to do things on your own, and these are viable. And I'm going to talk to you about the categories and what it is that you need, what it involves. Okay, great. So Cal, you can you're going to switch. Okay, perfect. So these are sort of frequently asked questions, what to do. And again, in the US, the main issue is is having a work permit, right? You study whatever it is you study, undergraduate degree, bachelor's, master's degree, even PhD degrees, and you can stay here for as long as you can, even vocational studies, so that will not come on an F1 student visa, but they'll come on an M1, for example. So you're here, you're allowed to stay for as long as you attend your classes. If you are a regular student, you get, Carol, are you admitting everyone? Because I keep about trying to allow people to join, and it's disappearing.
Yes, I'm allowing them.
So you're, okay, so I'm not going to touch those if anybody, okay, perfect. Because it's distracting me also. Wonderful. So, so you may have a 1-year OPT, you may have a 2-year OPT, and then you have a grace period. Generally it's 60 days, and then you need to leave. And that's it. That's as simple as that, unless you have other grounds. And of course, we help people in all areas that want to stay in the US. And you may be a student or an alumni who has other grounds. You may be a person that has extraordinary ability, that you worked before you came to the US and you were recognized in your field, and that's a different kind of visa. We do all of these all the time. And I'll talk a little bit about that later on. But the main visas that I'm going to speak about in particular are the E2 visa. If you are a citizen of a country that the US has an accord with, that's how you can set up your own company. Or if you don't have money to do so, or are not inclined to do so, you may have other people in your home country who want to set up a company in the US, and you work for that company to develop and direct the company as an E2 manager, which we've done. And we did it for not long ago for somebody from Japan who had a colleague or friend who set up the company, and she worked in it as a part of her OPT, and then we got her the E2 to continue working. So I just want to sort of first talk about the background. So as I said, the main thing is to do with the numerical limit. Even if you get a good OPT job and then they want to sponsor you for the H-1B and they pay for a lawyer, there is a lottery, there's a selection process, and it is limited, and it's about 37%, 32% or less. You can go forward, Carol. So these are just some statistics, and I'll talk to you about statistics until recent years, until 2023. There's sort of all kinds of focuses depending on the politics. So that was previously in the Trump era, and we're still in the Biden era now. But nevertheless, if you look at available slots for visas, and this is 2023, there were 65,000 for people with bachelor's degrees and 20 for people who have a master's degree. And you can look up all of these statistics. You can move forward, Carol. And here you just see the numbers. So what I would focus on in particular, if you look at every year, and you can look also at the, let's say, the most recent year of 2023, you can see that out of the people that were eligible, okay, it is a small percentage who actually were selected. In 2023, 177,000 or so, 600, versus the beginning amount of people that wanted it are in over 480,000 people. So you should obviously go ahead with everything, any option that you can take. The US government doesn't limit the number of visas that you apply for. I'll leave it at that. There are some legalities. There are sort of immigrant visas and non-immigrant visas, and you can't apply for them at the same time because of intent. But nevertheless, the bottom line is you can make as many applications as you wish. The US government will not hold you back. So even if you're on an H-1B visa, you can also apply for the things that I'm talking to you about now. If you don't get a job, you can apply. If you do get a job and they are sponsoring you and you weren't selected in the lottery, you can apply. Meaning you can apply at any stage. And these are also visas where you can apply even if you go back home. You can continue, Carol. So here's just some further statistics and talking about what a great asset to the United States foreign students are, and how much money they brought into the country. $33.8 billion to the US economy was generated from foreign students, international students, also generating jobs, and that was statistics from last year. And here, just showing in terms of 2022, if you look at the bottom, and again, you can Google all these and you can get all of the original reports. Only 23% and 12% of those who earn bachelor's degrees got a state job post-graduation within their state. So all of this is, yes, it's stacked up against you, but don't give up. Obviously, I didn't get my first job. I applied for many. I won't tell you how many, but I'll tell you hundreds until I got my first law job, and it's being focused and determined. Nevertheless, you want to do the maximum with all your options and you make your path. And everybody can. You don't have to be the smartest. You don't have to have the highest grades. Obviously, you need to have the graduation degrees, and I'll talk to you about that in a moment. You can move forward, Carol. So what are the options? So as I said, the options I'm going to talk to you about now, because we do many options. We do options for people who are afraid to go back to their home country and want to apply for asylum. We do options for people who are victims, unfortunately, of violence in the United States. That could be in domestic violence, that could be street violence, anything that is a threat or a physical harm. These are different types of visas that also lead to green cards. We also do visas for people who were victims of what is called coerced labor, meaning you may have worked, and this can be even anybody on an actual visa that you're here legally working. But for example, you may have got started at a job and the terms that you were told before you started are not the truth of what it is, or you may be asked to work in dangerous conditions and you are continuing work unwillingly, but for threats or subliminal or overt threats saying, well, we can get you deported or other things. It's much more in depth than that, but this is a type of visa that we do, which is called a T visa. And it comes under the realm of human trafficking, but it is not only about sex trafficking, it's also about coerced labor. And as I said, this can be for individuals who are also on a visa or no visa. So we do everything, we do family related, etc. But for students in particular who maybe, of course, if you fall in love with a US citizen or green card holder for love, to make a life together, then of course that is an option, and that's a sure thing because that is the right of the US citizen or green card holder to be with the person that they love. And those are different types of visas that we do. But for people who don't have that, and for people who want, it's their passion, it's their world, it's everything they've studied, it's their future, and they want to get the maximum of their capabilities as a human being. And in the US, for better or worse, and it's not a perfect place, but there are enormous amount of options. So a lot of people want to continue in whatever it is they've studied, whatever it is they're wishing to do. And in these options, in this situation, the options I'm going to talk to you about are the E2 and the EB2 NIW, which stands for National Interest Waiver. I'll talk a little bit at the end about the O1. That's going to be for less people, but it may be if you have had a record of, in the O1 is what is called sustained acclaim. That means that whatever field, it's for people in the arts, anything, or people in science, business, technology, you name it, anything can be an O visa, that you need to show sustained acclaim, meaning that you are at the top of your field. What does it mean, the top of your field? Well, first of all, you narrow the field down, because it doesn't mean all data sciences are at the top of the field. But let's say you have a special, you can make a niche of whatever you're doing. If you worked in another place and you worked in a different home country and you've studied in a third country or whatever it is, you're unique because you have a different professional background, a different history, and you've studied and maybe worked in the US under the OPT. So you have that, and whatever you're doing is in some way particular. It's easier to show that you're at the top of the field. There are very, very specific requirements, and it's all about acclaim, fame, distinction. Whatever you've done, you've worked in some kind of company or organization or whatever it is, that is distinct in itself. Things are written about the place. It's a very in-depth visa. It's a huge one. It's a lot of, these are all visas that are a lot of work, but they have enormous results. So the O1 visa, if you can show that you had a lead or critical role in an organization with distinction, things that were written about you, potentially if you've published things, if you've judged work of others, there are a whole series of requirements. And for those visas, you need only to show evidence of 3 categories of these requirements. If you've won any kind of award, honors, and including the things I've just mentioned, if you were paid more than others. I want to say one thing, which is that there are a million things on the internet about visas and immigrations to the US. Do not believe anything, not even our site, although we do everything to be correct. The reason is because immigration law is the most complex area of law, because it's political in part, and it is changing all the time. I'm a member of AILA. It's the top American Immigration Lawyers Association in the US. I get updates every working day. So things are changing because of court cases, that's called precedent cases, because of changes to the regulations, changes to the interpretation, etc. So the key is to be up to date, because anything online either wasn't fully correct to begin with, or it may have been correct, but time has passed and things then have changed. The only site to believe on the internet is the government's own site, and that is uscis.gov. That's it. If you're talking about anything to do with the consulates where you're outside of the country, it's travel.state.gov. But all the visas that we do, or nearly all, are through uscis.gov. They have a search bar and you can look up. They don't have that much information, but I mean, they do, but it's sort of very legal and complex, but they do have sort of general public information, and that's the only thing you should go by. And you can put in national interest waiver or O1 visa for extraordinary ability, and it will give you some of the information, not everything, but it will give you the base information to date, because those are living documents changing all the time. So that's all I'm going to say about the O1 visa. There are more things to say, but I want to talk about the general ones that will allow you to be self-employed and to work in the US. So the E2 visa, to know if you would be eligible for an E2 visa, and I would say that that's the more straightforward between the E2 and the EB2. The thing about the E2 visa is you can only apply for it if you are a citizen of one of the countries that the United States has a treaty with for E2. And how you would know is you just Google E2 treaty countries, And I would suggest that you click on the one that says travel.state.gov. Remember, that's a government's own site, and you will get a list. The visa that we do is the E2, and the reason is because there's E1 and E2. E1 is problematic. I don't want to spend the time telling you why. It's about a trade visa, and if your trade goes down, then you can lose the visa when you have to renew it. So we focus only on the E2. So if you look up if you go up to travel.state.gov or put in the Google just E2 treaty countries, see if you're a citizen of any of those countries that is for the E2. And if there is an asterisk near your country, read the bottom footnotes, because some countries sort of have some limitations. But assuming that your country is in it, and was generally all the European countries, but now it's other countries, for example, Korea, and other countries as well. So you can check that first of all. That type of visa is a non-immigrant visa. The EB2 National Interest Waiver visa, which is the second one that I'm going to focus on tonight, and the main one really, is an immigrant visa. So there are hundreds of different kinds of visas. They all have different letters, and they all though fit under two paths. One are the non-immigrant visas, where you tell the government, once this visa is ended and any extensions to this visa have terminated, I'm going back to my home country. That's what it is. Things may change and you may be eligible for an immigrant visa, and those are the visas that lead to the green cards. But at the time you file your application, you must honestly say, when this visa is over and any extensions I may get, I will go back. Like the H-1B visa, that's not forever. There's a 6-year limit, and there are some other things that can be done. Actually, the EB2 National Interest Waiver visa is a very good one, because it can prolong your H-1B if you're one of the people that get an H-1B. So this EB2 is a very good one and doesn't inhibit your H-1B if you are one of the lucky people to get it and are working under it. So back to the E2. So the E2 is a non-immigrant visa. The EB2, the EBs are the employment visas that lead to the green card. Those are called immigrant visas. That one leads to a green card. If you get that one approved, you can then, there's a gap of about a year, 12 months or so. It fluctuates depending on the government's processing times. Once you get the EB2 approved, after 12, 14 months, whatever it is, you can then apply for the green card. The E2 does not lead to a green card, but you can keep reapplying, renewing it every 5 years. And there are some ways to even make it a bit longer than 5 years. And you need to, so that's a very good one. Both of them require you to set up a company. We have various organizations that we know. You don't need really to pay anybody. To set up a company in the US is not a very difficult thing. It's a legal thing. I can't give you tax advice or business advice. You can get that. We also refer people if they do want to help, but many of the people that work with us, and we've helped over 1,000 people, individuals, families, etc. We're in the 9th year at RelisLaw. I'm a lawyer many years, more than 20. Happy to say and hate to say, but we have never had, really all the people that have been working with us have set up their own companies themselves. They haven't used any other company to help them set up one. Your companies can be any kind. The government doesn't care. It can be partnership, LLC, whatever. Shares, holders, it doesn't matter. It can be registered in any state, doesn't matter. Both of these two visas, the E2, that is a non-immigrant visa that you can keep reapplying if you're a citizen of one of the countries under the E2 treaty, or the EB2, which you can apply for if it doesn't matter where you're from in the world. It's not limited. Require a 5-year business plan. That's very important, because the government are giving these not as a favor to you, not out of good-heartedness, I don't know, but I think not. But they're doing it to enhance and strengthen the U.S. economy, right? They want to create jobs. So you want to have a business plan that shows how you plan to extend your business, what's the forecast. We have companies that we vet that do business plans. We don't get any money from any of these companies, but we've vetted them and we've worked with them and we've had people approved for all of these options. So you'll need a business plan. The E2 visa, that's the only external assistance you'll need, which is the visa E2 business plan. You also need to show for the E2 that the money that you're going to invest, and I'm going to talk to you about what money you need or borrow or get somebody else to invest, you'll need for each of these two visas. The E2 visa, you also have to show that the money that you're getting is not from crime. Surprise, surprise. So it cannot be from crime, drugs, or whatever else illicit ways people get money. It has to be from legal sources. It can be borrowed money. That's okay. The E2 visa is one where you need to have money invested that's at risk. These visas, so that's number one. There is a way to hold the funds in escrow, sort of on condition that you get the visa. But most of the people are actually investing it. The difference between the two visas money-wise is that the E2 visa, you need to put in money, whether it's your own money or somebody else's money. As I said, it can be somebody you know or family member in your home country who wants to set up a company in US and have as a manager or executive to develop and direct that E2 business. And as I said, we've done that for other students or graduates. And there's no minimum amount, but it's much more than the EB2. The amount has to be whatever the government determines, and there's ways that are assessed online as well at different organizations of what will give your company a good chance and a good sort of what's the market value of what's needed to have your company work. Whatever you're going to do, whatever you're studying, anything under the sun. We've done it for people for marketing analysis, and people said that, oh, that would be a very difficult one to get, and we got it for them. So it can be anything, whatever is your field. You don't have to show anything more, but first of all, that the money that you put in cannot be marginal. The amount, there's no set amount, as I said. People have gotten it for little money. There's sort of the rule or regulations do not give a minimum amount. There's sort of an unspoken number of 100,000, but people have gotten it for less. And the money can also be with a partner. So let's say if you want to be an owner for the E2, you can own 50%. You have to have a veto amount, so it has to be at least 50% owner. So let's say you're only going to put in 50,000 and your friend or colleague is going to put in the other, or it could be 40,000 each. There's no set amount. As I said, it depends on the business, and that also links into the business plan, because the companies, and we have very good ones that we recommend, but as I said, you can use any company you like to say sort of what's the field, what's the forecasted income, and what would be your salary for the first year, second year, up to 5 years. So the E2, there are people that have gotten it for less amounts. The lesser amount, the riskier. But as I said, the E2 is one where you don't have to have anything more than a bona fide business. It needs not to be marginal, the money that's put in, and it needs to be at commercial risk. So how would you invest it? It's not just taking the money, let's say your mother lent it to you or your cousin lent it to you or whatever it is. You need to actually invest it, like buying software, marketing, maybe renting a shared office. Well, actually, both of the visas do want to see that there's an office rented, if that you could do at the very end. Potentially hiring somebody, it could be contractors, and everything can be conditional on you getting the visa. So that if something doesn't work out, you will not be on the hook for it, because it's contingent on you getting the visa. So that's, I think, much of what I want to say about the E2. It can be an ongoing business or a business that's about to be ongoing, and that's what they are assessing. You can apply for that visa inside the US, and if you get approved, you can start working right away. You can also, with both of these visas, if you're inside the US, pay the government extra money, which is gone up, and that is for what is called premium processing. And for the E2 visas, as I said, that could be any kind of company. It could be a nail salon, a restaurant, anything, whatever you're doing, and whatever is your passion. And you want to obviously show that you have people that are interested to be your customers, whatever it is that you're doing. So this is research that you would be doing, and that would also be in your business plan. So the E2 visa is one that you can, if you pay for premium processing, it was $2,500, I think it's $2,800 now, or $2,805, you'll get an answer in 2 weeks. And if you're approved, you can start working then and there. So that's a huge game changer for people. And I'm going to leave it at that just because of time. And of course, you're all invited, and at the end, you will get information if you would like to have a more in-depth session for guidance. So the EB2 visa, let's move on to that one. The EB2 visa is a very different type of visa. Yes, you can do premium processing also for the EB2 visa. Yes, it's the same that you would set up a company, any kind of company. That's absolutely fine. As I said, the difference is you don't have to be a citizen. It doesn't matter what country you're from. Any country under the sun, if it's on this earth, you can apply. There is an entry threshold of either having a master's degree or a bachelor's degree and 5 years experience, progressive related to whatever your degree is. Or you can, if you have less than that, you can even have no degree. No academic degree, but then there's an additional requirement that you need to show that you're a person of, and the legal term is exceptional ability. Exceptional ability is not that high level of the O1 I told you. That's called extraordinary ability, and that top small percentage of people who reach the top of their field, whatever their field is. But exceptional ability is for people who want to do the EB2 national interest waiver, but let's say they just got a bachelor's degree and they don't have 5 years experience. Sometimes people work before the bachelor's degree. But regardless, if you don't, you need to show in addition that you have exceptional ability, and basically that is that you are significantly more than the usual person encountered in your situation. How can that be? Well, you may have a license, you may have certain degrees, you may have had things written about you, you may have had certain accolades, you may be judging the work of others. There's about 10 different requirements to show that in that way. And we have also gotten EB2 national interest waivers for people also who had no degrees. Recently, somebody who's in the arts and had a business that the person set up, and that was approved. And the person they have no academic degrees. They never finished any degrees, but they did sort of studies here and there in different ways. The EB2 national interest waiver, you do not have to have a lot of money to put into it. You don't have to have any of your own money. You do want to show that you have some investors. It can be relatives, it can be people that you reach out to who are going to say, yes, if the visa is approved, we are going to, invest 10,000, 20,000, whatever it is. Many people are investing 5,000. It doesn't really matter, but it needs to show that the business is viable, that people are interested in it. The EB2 national interest waiver business is different than the E2 business. I've had somebody who invested, I think of her own money, $10,000 or something, 10, 12 or so, and we got that person approved because they had investors and because they had customers that already wanted to engage with them, and this was shown. The difference is that the EB2 national interest waiver, first of all, it's the most life-changing because you can get a green card if that's approved. So that's phenomenal. The difference is that the EB2 national interest waiver has to have a social welfare benefit. The E2 visa can be anything, as I said, a nail salon, a restaurant, or anything, any kind of active business. Sort of not real estate investment, but something active. The EB2 can be anything under the sun. However, it needs to be related to you and your education or your studies or your work experience, because not only does that EB2 endeavor, the company, the business, they call it an endeavor, it has to have merit in itself. social merit and substantial merit in itself, but it has to be in the national interest. So it means that it needs to be helping people more than just you and your direct clients. This can be anything. There are ways around it. I'm not going to talk about this online because this is going to be posted to social media globally, but there are ways to show it, and we have been successful every time in doing that to surmount this national interest element. So you have to have an endeavor. It has to have substantial merit in itself. You have to show there's a need for it, whatever you're doing. People will need, I mean, that's how businesses earn money, right? People need the help of the business, whatever it is, helping students know about what universities to go into, it can be anything under the sun. We had it for people, I don't want to go into details because of confidentiality, but it can be anything and everything. But the key is that you're going to be helping people more than your direct clients. For the preparation of the EB2 National Interest Waiver Visa, you need to have an endeavor statement. It's about a 20-page or more statement, and it's very detailed and very specific requirements that I'm continuously, all the time, we've spent, I don't know, more than 1,000 hours working and always improving it. There are analyses that are done of what cases get approved and what cases get denied, so that we do everything. It's a huge endeavor of work to prepare an EB2. And you have sort of your application package is enormous, and everything is supported by citations, reports, etc., about why it's in the national interest. It can be helping disempowered communities. It can be many things. Helping in culture. It can be for artists as well. Helping in culture, education, creating jobs, environment, housing, helping youth at risk. Anything under the sun that has a social welfare benefit that's going to benefit more than just you and your immediate customers or clients. But again, any business that you have in your mind can be geared, can be expanded, and we work together and we do a lot of brainstorming together to create that. The second thing about the EB2 National Interest Waiver Visa is not just the endeavor. I don't want to go into legalities, but there was a court case that expanded it. Expanded the opportunities for people to apply for these EB2 National Interest Waiver visas. And now, as a result of it, a few years ago, called DANASAR, there are sort of 3 prongs or 3 macro level categories, and each have many subsidiary detailed requirements that you need to show. So the one thing was the endeavor, which I've discussed with you. The second thing is that the focus moves away from the endeavor to you. What makes you, all of the people who are sharing this webinar, what makes you well positioned to advance this endeavor? And that's where you'll show any studies you've had, any work you've done, and also letters from individuals that you've worked for, can be also from professors, that talk about why you are well positioned to make this endeavor a success. Another thing that I want to say, which is really phenomenal, is that the US is looking for the best and the brightest, etc. Everything needs to be done in good faith, but your endeavor doesn't even have to succeed. So nobody's going to be checking you that you've sort of doubled your money, or you hope to, that you're going to make your business do well and expand, etc. But that is not a criteria of getting this. And as I said, once you get the visa approved, you then, from that approved visa, are able to apply to adjust your status to get a green card, or if you're outside the country, to do consular processing to come in as a permanent resident. So that's something that's really phenomenal. There are different things that need to be shown in the second prong. So one is letters that people talk about you and your leadership abilities, or whatever you were good at doing. That's relevant to whatever your business that you want to set work in now. And you need to show some other things, some steps that you've done to move forward your endeavor. Of course, everything is not to breach any visa that you're on now. So if you're on a student visa, you don't do anything, and we guide you, etc., that is in breach of legally what you're allowed to do under your student visas, right? So you can't do anything active, but preparation stuff, and there are certain things we give you guidance on that is permissible. So you will be moving forward, trying to move forward with your visa, with your endeavor, website creation, reaching out to people, your customers, whatever it might be, companies, might be groups, might be nonprofits, could be for-profit, nonprofits, etc. And you show some steps that you move forward to advance your endeavor. And the third prong we work on for you, which is an argument with the government of why they should allow you to waive the requirement of labor certification. And generally this they are taking seriously all students. I mean, it doesn't only have to be STEM students, it could be any students. As I said, it's also for people in the arts. But STEM students, and there was a recent memo that came out about a year ago in relation to STEM students in particular, but it's for all students, graduates, etc., or even non-graduates, as I mentioned. So I think I'm going to leave it there time-wise, because now it leaves us with 20 minutes to answer any questions, and I'm happy to do so. And this is statistics that I mentioned in terms of approval rates, etc. And these are all researched from my team. And the benefit that students and foreign nationals are giving to the US, not just changing your own lives, but helping the lives of others around. And people have a lot to give, especially in the EB2 national interest waiver field. I've been really privileged to learn about so many fabulous things of help and care and really deep change to society, giving opportunities to disempowered individuals. I'm not allowed to talk about particular case types, but many things that you would never have thought of. And these are getting approved. All of the ones we've had approved are phenomenal, and they're really thinking outside the box, using what you have, using your past skills, using your past history, wherever you were in the world, whatever you learned, whatever you worked in, and building something that is your dream business, your dream work, on your own 2 feet. So with that, I'll leave it open for any questions.
Okay, yes. For everybody, if you want to ask, if you want to turn your mic and ask Dr. Relis a question, you're able to do that. But if you want to put your question in the chat, I will read it for her, or Tamara can read it also.
Right. India is not eligible for E2 visa. That is correct. There is a sort of workaround. So that's why so I can talk to you about Indian and China nationals. Number one is, if you're a citizen of India, you can obtain citizenship from other countries that are on the list of E2 countries. One such country, which is not too expensive to apply for citizenship, that is Grenada. There are other countries like Turkey, Canada, etc. I'm from Canada originally. I also did immigration in the US. And Grenada is one that is spoken about often because it is about $150,000 investment to get an investor visa to get ultimately citizenship. I cannot advise you on that, but you can look that up. So that would be a way to get the E2 if you are originally from India. Of course, there's the issue with Indian citizenship and not allowing dual citizenship. But again, I don't want to speak about it here, but that, of course, would be a decision that you'd need to make. But there is a way to get around it for the E2. I want to say something also about the EB2 national interest waiver for citizens of India and China. So there are long waiting lists for the green card. Once you get the EB2 approved, if you're from India and China, you cannot get, there's a longer wait time for you to get the green card. The EB2 national interest waiver, if you have it approved, it still gives you benefits. For example, if you have an H-1B visa, it allows you to extend it if you have an approved EB2 national interest waiver visa. There's also something else that came out, that if you're on a different kind of visa, like an H, I believe it's also an L visa, that's for intercompany transferees, and you get the EB2 national interest waiver visa. Again, I don't want to go into legalities, but it does give you benefits in terms of getting a work permit, in terms of timelines, also with the H-1B. So even for people of China, from who are nationals of China and India, you can benefit by having an approved EB2 national interest waiver visa.
One of the questions that we got a lot in the last webinar, Tamara, is if they have already the F1 student visa, they can start applying or they can start their process to get their visas, like an E2, EB2.
Yes. As I mentioned, the government does not limit the number of visas that you can get. You can apply while you're on a student status. The key is you need to apply while you are in status. If your student status or other status is about to expire, there's like a bridge. You either keep on studying, or you can apply to change your status, for example, for 6 months, or it could be a bit longer, to a tourist status while you are processing another kind of visa or applying for another kind of visa, because always you need to be in status or within your grace period to apply for any visas. And all the visas I've spoken to you about now are very big visas. I'm speaking in a sort of summary way, but this is a lot of work. We do something which is amazing for people, because this is not normally done in my knowledge, which is that we have sort of outside sources that help you do all the writing. And that will make it way easier for you than spending weeks and days and months writing all the things that are needed, because we edit, we give you instructions, we review, you have unlimited meetings with the team, your personal case manager about how to improve it, but it's not our history, it's not our business, we don't know your, whatever the business is, so that you need to do. So we also have teams that they're external that can help you, and saves you tons of stress, anxiety, and time to prepare all of the things that are required. So yes, you can do it while you are, in a student visa or in any visa status or in a grace period. So somebody asks how you contact for an individual consultation. So that one, Carol, we offering something which is like whoever attends the webinars can get a reduced fee. There it is. So you will save $50 if you give your email and everything in the chat, and then somebody from the office will contact you to book a session that is called a legal visa strategy session, and it's for 30 minutes. So do that if you're interested, and we're happy to help you. Okay, does anybody have any other questions? I mean, it's a lot of information. As I said, we have also people, I don't know if anybody's in this circumstances, but we have people that had applied for asylum if they have a genuine fear of persecution to go back to their home country, who are also, as long as they were always in status, that means they, let's say, applied for asylum. I mean, I've had people that came to us that applied by themselves, or you shouldn't do it by yourself, for sure not, but whatever the circumstances or elsewhere, they had help. And as long as you're always in status, so let's say you came in and you were on a student visa or a tourist visa, and you are afraid to go home for legitimate, of course, meritorious reasons, and you have an asylum claim, that doesn't give you a visa, but it allows you to remain in the United States on what is called authorized stay. And if you are in authorized stay, that allows you also to apply for the EB2 national interest waiver visa. It's not a guarantee, but I've checked it with numerous colleagues of mine at AILA, the American Immigration Lawyers Association. I see, Carol, somebody else is wishing to enter. So people even in such a situation are also making these applications. I should say, you need to be devoted to this. It's your life. It's major. You need to be involved in it. We have these professional writers and business plan writers and all that, so that it can be way, way easier for you. You have to pay them, but we have a whole list. We've done all this research and vetted people, and there's all different prices. Some are not very much, but it will help you a lot. It takes a lot of stress out of the process. So the main thing is writing either your declaration or your endeavor statement. The E2 doesn't require any statements, okay? But the E2 requires investment at risk, as I mentioned. So the other thing I want to say then, if we don't have any other questions, is I imagine that most of you are on student visas at the moment, or you're on OPT, or whatever the situation is. And you might think, oh, I've got so many months and this and that. If you're serious and you want to stay in the US, you need to treat your situation as urgent. And the reason is because, and here's the magic word, evidence. It's all about the evidence. If you've read about me, you'll know that I also did immigration to the United States. I did a postdoc also at Columbia University. And I then became a law professor in the US. And I was a professor of human rights, about the human family, and also a professor of evidence, assistant professor of evidence. And that is about the federal laws of evidence. Here we're talking about immigration law. But the key is that the difference between anybody getting approved and denied is the package of evidence that you present to the government, crafted, that's really important, in the way that matches these ever-changing legal requirements. And that's key. So the more time you have, the more evidence you're going to prepare. The more time you'll have to reflect on your evidence. Oh, maybe this, maybe I should add this. Whereas if you're in a rush, you'll forget things. And you have, a major chance, let's put it that way. It's like an exam or an essay. You have to be devoted to put a lot of time and effort into it. We guide you, we do many, many things. We spend we're spending hundreds and hundreds of hours on all the cases, but the key is this is your business. This is your plan. So you need to be devoted to it and devote your time to it as well. There's no rush. We have like a 1 month guarantee of a final processing. Once you get us everything that we need, in 4 weeks or less, we have 4 levels of our team. And my team includes on the legal support team. They all have law degrees from wherever they have law degrees. Myself, I'm on the team. You'll have also, we offer something which I don't know if that's offered elsewhere, but we offer it for free, which is post-case filing support. And there also you'll get legal post-case filing support. Many people don't. They're waiting for months, years. The government is not acting on time, and we are chasing them. And we are on them, and we'll never leave you. We're here for you to answer your questions, to help you, and to make sure you get whatever you're entitled to get ASAP by whatever the dates the government states they're going to process your case. So our process also about somebody asked about what is the process. So first of all, you call in, you can say that you attended this webinar, and then you will have a meeting with one of the initial consultation managers. They're going to go through various checklists and just understand your situation. It's free. And then I will come in and meet you personally, and then you'll have they will book then, as long as everything's okay. We're not taking anybody's money unless we know we can help you. So depending on what happens in your first meeting, and that one is totally free, and it's about 15 minutes, 30 minutes max. And by the way, we're helping people in every state of the US. We're planning to be opening up another office in California, but because immigration law is federal, we're allowed to work all over the US. We're helping students and people, families, individuals in every state, and also people around the world, of course. It's very easy to work with us. You can drop your things into any of the offices, but you can do everything online. All you need is a scanner. The government does not require original documents. You need to have the documents that we're going to ask you to get. But those would only be needed for any interview if one is required. And in the visas I've mentioned too, now people are generally not getting interviews. So everything you can do from wherever you are in the world, whatever state you're in. And we're here every day. Okay, so I'm going to sign off. I want to thank you all for joining. I hope this was helpful for you, and I hope this is empowering for you, because it can be life-changing, and it has been for many people. The key is sort of not to be vulnerable, to take charge of your future, to make a plan, and anything is doable. Anything is doable if you aim to do it. You can do it over months. You don't have to do it from when you're here. You can spread things out also to do with costs or anything, if that's your aim. And I think it's worthwhile for your life, for yourself, for your career, your family, etc. It gives you options that you wouldn't have otherwise. Even for me, I've had many options thanks to my getting a visa in the US and then a green card, working here, and then becoming a US citizen. I have enjoyed many more options than in the other countries that I have lived in particular, Canada and the UK, because I was also a lawyer. I still am, but I'm not practicing there, a solicitor and a barrister in England and Wales. So things are much more regulated there and harder to have opportunities that I have had here. And I'm very grateful to the US for that. It's really helped me help other people and helped me and my family tremendously. So I hope that for you. Thank you so much.